5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, that's Cornell. That Cornell way?
You can be there.
In his younger day, right?
Here we go.
All right. Hello. Welcome. We're delighted to see you. We're very happy that you have come out today. We're in a situation in America where we are, of course, confronting many crises. But I always think that sometimes when we say these things, it's almost like, we are the only people who have confronted crises. Crises have always been with us. I remember our fathers and mothers, they used to complain about the same things that we're complaining about. We complain about our children. They complain, their parents complain about children and so forth. And it seems from time to time in the population, we are confronted with social crises. This time it's the opioids, and we're seeing fentanyl, for example, exploding throughout the American society. But I remember when it was crack, and I remember the situation. I remember the situation when it was not just crack, but before that it was heroin. So there were many, many crises that we face in a contemporary situation. But there are some crises that are political, some are health-wise, some are social, some are cultural. We, as African people, have experienced almost all of them in this society. And in an international sense, we look around the world today and we find that there are many crises. They're not crises that are made by natural or unnatural phenomena. They are made actually by human beings. We create them. We make them. It's just like I always tell people when Hitler rose to power in Germany in the 1930s, it was people who elected him. And it's the same that what we're seeing, elsewhere. I noticed today, for example, in Israel, that there are demonstrations in the streets in Israel. And they're demonstrations because the power, the government, wants to do away with the Supreme Court being the supreme power in judicial matters. And the people are saying, don't do away with the Supreme Court. And so as I was reflecting, it seemed to me that the people who elected the government are the people now who are complaining. You put him in office. You put Netanyahu in office, And the same here in America. When people put Trump in office, they put Trump in office and then they say, he's an autocrat. Well, you knew that before. So the question is, and I think it's a deep question, the question is the one that our speaker today is eager to answer is that maybe it's a spiritual problem. Maybe it's a deeper problem than what we are considering. Somehow there's something, and when we talk about spirituality, sometimes we say there's something missing. You meet some people sometimes and you say, wow, I feel that person's presence and I feel that's a good person. And I can relate to that person. You have that kind of energy with people. And then other people you meet, you say, oh, there's something wrong here. I don't know. That energy is not good. Well, that's because spirituality is something that's attractive. It draws people in, you see? And sometimes people use words like, well, they're charismatic. But what does that mean? And what it means is that there is a spirit that I'm attracted to, you see? So that's why when I look at the political crises, the ecological crisis, you can name them all, whether they're social crises or whatever, that at the bottom of all of this is there something that has to do with human beings, something we're not getting or not doing or not activating. And so that's why I'm so happy and proud this afternoon for our audience, our local audience, as well as for our YouTube audience on our channel, to be able to introduce Dr. Jabali Ade. We call him the rapping professor. He's very popular in Philadelphia. He's known widely here and elsewhere for his ability to get right to the bottom of matters. He's brilliant. He's a very excellent person with good character. And, you know, it's very hard to find people with good character these days. But this young man has great character. He has integrity. He has dedication and devotion. And I often see him, and I tell him when I see him, he's the only person I know, probably, I start to say that works harder than me, but works almost as hard as I do. And I say, boy, you're still right. You're still working. He's working. He's a wonderful young man, and he has an incredible reputation about the people who meet him and know him. And in fact, I get calls quite regularly from one gentleman in this city who always complains that this man should always be on the radio. He said he's not on the radio, and I don't understand that. He needs to be on the radio because the community needs to hear what he has to say. I'm absolutely delighted. You know, I can talk about the man's degrees and all that, but you'll hear him for yourself. He's I like this expression. Because sometimes there was an old sage that was once asked somewhere on the continent of Africa. There was asked, how do you tell who people are? And someone said, well, you tell by how much money they have. And somebody else said, no, you don't tell by how much money they have. You tell by who their parents are. And somebody else said, no, you tell how much education they have. And then the old man said, no, you tell where have they traveled. And this young man has traveled far and wide, and he knows a lot of stuff. So at this time, with no interruptions, I'm going to ask Dr. Jabali Ade if he would come forward and speak to us.
Hotep. Let me get my mic right. Hotep. All right. I got a lot to say. I'm going to start in the same tradition that Dr. Santi was speaking in terms of the historical context. And Dr. Santi always talks about the importance of chronology. And if you see behind me, this is a younger Mr. Cornel West when they had the panel on Donahue with Sister Soldier. And Sister Soldier was known for saying, we are at war! And she would always say that. And I think it's important for us to see exactly what Dr. Santi was saying, how every generation has its challenges. And some of the frustration in this quick clip by Sister Soldier is just going to, set the stage and the mood. So let me see if I could just get the audio up there and then do the volume.
Among other things, and he's not claiming to be particularly original with the observation, we can't get there unless we go together. I have a terrible feeling that behind me are some people who do not agree.
Senator Bradley of the all-white United States Senate said we can't get there unless we all go there together. Sorry, none of us are where he is. That's number one. Number two, you're making a moral appeal to a country that doesn't have a moral conscience. The question becomes that when white people feel serious and angry and upset about abortion, they come out in the thousands up to the millions to say, this is what we believe about abortion. Where is the white outcry against white racism that murders African people all around this entire globe? It doesn't exist. So who are these white good people? I want to meet them. I want to see them. A few is not enough.
But that might be all we can get.
And guess what? I don't work with all I can get. What I work with is what I have. Listen, you have to have some confidence in the power of African people amongst ourselves to establish a foundation.
We have.
We haven't. We have utter chaos in our cities, and you've got
There's
to
no
see
black
that.
institutions we
You
can build?
can have a program. I'm not saying we've built a lot of institutions, and those institutions have not been effective. The majority of millions of African youth in this country are dying mentally, dying spiritually, dying emotionally, dying academically. And you may have a program, Mr. Brown may have a program, but what we got to talk about is an American government that tracks millions of African people who don't go to your program, don't go to Brown's program, millions of African people, not only here, but all around the world. And if we are not honest enough to say who are our friends, who are our enemies, to know what a friend is, to know what an enemy is, we will constantly be trying to get into people's parties, to shake our butts with them, to get them to like us, and that's not the question. The question is, what can we build amongst ourselves to secure ourselves from our enemies so that we will be able to survive into the future?
Woo, that's the intro, right? Yeah, right? Well, you know, she's still, she's a successful author, right? And she's still doing a lot with books, and she's still well connected with the hip-hop community. So shouts out to Sister Soldier. And I always talk about strategy, because usually people talking like that aren't talking 20, 30 years later. So I appreciate when people are able to pivot and keep their message and navigate spaces in such a way that they don't get stressed out. Because a lot of times people who have that level of frustration, they're targeted, and, you know, sometimes that energy could turn inward on itself. The contrast to this is another slide that I've shown before, but it's a more optimistic presentation of who we are. It's a documentary about the Dogon, and it's a quick 1-minute portion because it talks about human potential.
Is a unique social harmony maintained by strong tradition. Among these people, murder, theft, and suicide is all but unknown.
They used to have a song, you might have heard it, said, "I'll take you there," right? He said, "I know a place," right? Ain't nobody crying, right? Like people say, they imagine those kind of places. Imagine a world, right? John Lennon, imagine all the people, right? Imagine a place with no murder. Imagine a place with no rape. Imagine a place, right? If our memory was long enough, like Asa Hilliard says, like our brains are supercomputers, right? We can better process information, engage phenomena, and even predict future events if we have enough memory. You hear people say, we got all these problems. What are we going to do? We need more police on the street. It's the only solution they can conceptualize. But if they studied people, they said, wait a minute. We weren't killing anybody. They say the murder rate was over 500 people in Philadelphia last year. Per capita, we exceeded Chicago. I think these are important lessons. People think that we're just playing games, you know, these academic things and this Africanity and the aesthetics. No. We're trying to solve human problems. We need to understand ourselves to such an extent that no one is murdered. One more, let me bring that back, just like 20 seconds. Because people are going to say, well, we must need to pray this many times a day. We must need this kind of church. We must need to wear these kind of clothes and have these kind. Listen to the reason and
separate the Dogon from countless other tribes. What makes the Dogon different is a unique social harmony maintained by strong tradition.
That's it. You was waiting for a whole lot of other stuff, right? In the book of cooperation. Verse, you know better what you're supposed to be doing. Chapter, treat people like you want to be treated. Right? Benediction. People get so, I heard that there was no letter J 1,500 years ago, and you said that the prophet, wait. Last I checked, all y'all was killing. All these major religions got major body counts. Why not incorporate, infuse, right? Because you don't ever want to, infringe upon anybody's sensibilities in terms of spirituality, because that's the easiest way for you to get killed. That and criticizing the food if you ever visit a church. But I want to talk to you today about simplifying some of these otherwise more complicated notions about spirituality. Where should I go here? Slides? I don't see it. I'm sorry, yo. I don't see that either. Oh, up here. Yep, there I go. Start from the beginning. Because in class sometimes they start from the middle. They start world history in Greece. So it might seem redundant to say start from the beginning, but I think that it's important that we remember to tell ourselves that that's where we're supposed to be starting. Because other people, this is where we left off last time, and I was saying we're better than our biases. And people talk about that in terms of multiculturalism. But I want to talk about that in terms of our indoctrination and traditional education and conceptualization of what's possible. We have to be able to reimagine and re-envision what is possible. That's why I showed that video about the Dogon. There are people who you can look at them with a computer. They call it buffering, right? And I always say I could talk to people readily. And like Dr. Asante was talking about the energy, you can see when people are just buffering. They just running on the same program. They got a bunch of viruses running in their brain and in their spirit. Right? They're pessimistic. They don't believe that they can do anything. They don't think that things could change. They don't think they could be an agent of change. They're preoccupied with what other people are doing instead of what they have the potential of doing to change immediately in their community, right? I've talked to people all day about what happened 3,000 years ago while there's litter in front of us on the ground and there's kids playing with no supervision. I say, this ain't stopping us from picking up the trash, though, brother. They say, yeah, because, the pyramids and the quasars and the Anunnaki. I said, we could talk about that and pick up the trash, but like we could do both, right? I'm with the pyramid talk as much as anybody else, but I'm not going to talk about pyramids to the point we don't raise our children. I've seen people on YouTube more than they with their kids. I say, hold up, brother. You got all the followers and subscribers, but you got baby mama drama to the point that your kids don't. Okay, that's too far, too fast. I told myself I was going to take it easy today. But how can we when we got our children playing games like this? So when we talk about spiritual impacts and desensitizing people to other people's conditions, you would never see a Japanese internment game. You would never see a Holocaust game that teaches children how to spell using extrajudicial murder, which is the textbook definition of a mob, right? Or a lynching, right? 3 or more people is a mob. When they don't take you through due process, that's when they railroad you, right? That's a lynching, a lynch mob. They say, let's use this to teach the children how to spell. If you type in your app store right now on all your phones, you're going to see hundreds of examples of people hanging. And people talk about the impulse and the offense, the emotional component. I'm saying, no, the deep-rooted spiritual component. You wonder why somebody hates themselves. If you're in class and everybody is enjoying your murder the way they used to enjoy it in reality, now it's the effigy being enjoyed the same way that thousands of people would come and watch an African person be dismembered and burned and shot and lynched, and they would cheer and they would celebrate and they would take special trains and buy tickets and dress in their best and pose for pictures and use them as postcards. The same appetite exists in the virtual space that existed in the real space. They say, oh, we came so far. I said, no, the world has moved online. Right? They say, I don't see people courting and dating. I said, oh, no, they think it's courting, but they online. It's the same stuff going on. They say, oh, it's so good that we don't have the same level of competition with these other nations. I said, no, you got to look at the weather modification. You got to look at, these balloons that are floating around and people taking people's data and the difference between TikTok in China and TikTok in America, where they have all these, positive things on their TikTok and they're showing us all kind of debauchery and negativity, spiritual warfare. When you're getting into a child's spirit at a critical stage of development, they're seeing things that I didn't see as an adult. TV was going off at 12 o'clock. Y'all remember? It was little rainbow lines. You had to wait. If you didn't want to read, you go to sleep. Right? You was forced to have some level of balance. Technology mandated some level of balance. This is not all the time. This is not reality. You got to go live in the real world at some point. They don't have that requirement now. They could stay in a false reality that has no spiritual resonance for their entire lives. They can communicate more with devices than they do with people throughout their entire lives. And I say, what is the spiritual cost of this, right? And there's things we could do, right? I always give this a practical application, so let's transform. That's me. How y'all doing? Okay, so spirituality asserts African agency, right? So African agency, again, when I talk about what we're able to do, I want to talk about brass tacks, rubber meeting the road, because people get so deep. I remember back before I had my new name, right? And people would say, you didn't change your name. I said, well, I believe that people should change from the inside out. I pause for dramatic effect on that. Let that marinate. Because a lot of people love to have all the trappings of transformation, but they ain't changed. They want to get the haircut and put the outfit on. And they say, I've been in jail for 5 days, and now they call me Abdullah Shabbat. Man, come on now. You the same. That was last week, brother. You know, you was robbing people last week now. You done got a new hat, you all new now. Come on now. You, brother. Don't do us like that. We know who you really are. And I didn't want to be that kind of person that just wanted to look like I was learning and look like I was growing. Right? So let's take our time with this and get to a point where it's genuine and it's meaningful and it's not performative. I'm not changing my name for y'all. I said I didn't know I was on your time. I didn't know there was a registry, for real African black people. I didn't know that there was an hourglass somewhere, like Days of Our Lives intro, that, my time was running out to be black enough, right? I said, wait, what? And then I said, why would you be concerned with my? I said, oh, there we go. There's a million things that I could be worried about. There's a million beams in my own eye that I should be concerned with. I got laundry to do. I got family concerns. I got grading and tenure. Like, by the time I get through with my stuff, it's time to go to sleep, y'all. I don't got no time to be like, well, I heard about you, and I want to talk to you about that. See, when we look at these things as spiritual, I don't want to say demons, but I already said it. Spiritual forces. There's a spirit of jealousy. There's a spirit of pessimism. There's a spirit of discontent. You never see somebody, no matter what they get, they're not satisfied. They'll be Whitney Houston in a tub. You say, I thought they had it all. Right? Ain't that something? We almost have it all. That's what you say. Like, but seriously, like, there's a situation where you figure if you just had this. And as parents, a lot of us can relate. You say, I thought you said this is what you wanted, right? And they still complaining, still acting up. But you're like, what? You made the mistake in not understanding where the void that Dr. Santi mentioned was coming from. You think the void is money? Some of us thought the void was freedom. Some of us are in worse shape. I shouldn't say this, should I? I'm going to say it. Some of us are in worse shape physically, mentally, and in terms of our skill set than many of us were on a plantation. I said it. Look at the physical shape they were in. Look at what they were able to do. Carpenters, nurses, engineers, inventors, agriculturalists, botanists. They was doing all that. They was healers and root women and preachers with a slave Bible. Nat Turner was leading the revolution. They was doing more with nothing than 90% of us are doing with so-called everything we can ask for. Now we out of shape, got no skills, can't get along with nobody, don't know how to live off no type land. Come on. Can't even keep our refrigerators fresh. But we said if we can just get free. But free from what? You thinking of physical freedom. You thinking of economic freedom. No, you need a freedom from a certain type of spirit. When they said, before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, I always said you have to remember that this was being said in the midst of bondage. Can you imagine somebody in slavery? Your child's been taken. Your wife's been violated. You just been whipped all day. And you say, before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. I'm not owning this. I'm not claiming this. My circumstance are not my identity. And the way this story starts is not the way it's going to end. And I already know how the story ends. Can you imagine that level of optimism? That level of belief in your ability to transform your reality by the way you conceptualize and engage what is just energy? A slave, an enslaved African on a plantation says, I'm not a slave. I don't know what they say I am. I'm defining me. these whips on my back don't define me. It's something I'm going through. The key word is through. So if somebody in the midst of that plight can have a certain spirit, a certain energy, a certain optimism, right? I always say my ancestral mandate. How can I come before my people and say, I don't know if we could do it, y'all? I don't know, the streets is crazy and Philly and these young teenagers. And I seen a video yesterday on the news and buffering. I get far away from them. You remember that game, the Cooties? I run. Once they start talking about the whole posture, I don't know, Harriet. I heard them dogs is fast. Well, you stay and feed them then. We gonna run. We gonna have to find out the hard way how fast they are. But there's always somebody, I don't know. And I was talking to a sister the other day, and she was asking me, she said, do you know the meaning of, the hush puppies? And she said, the enslaved Africans used to feed those dogs, the cornmeal, and other mixtures to keep the dogs quiet. And she said, they have snacks and fashion items called hush puppies now. But I told her, I said, you know what? I heard the name all these years, and when you said it, it was so clear, but I never put it together. And she said, yeah, she grew up on a plantation, and she would hear these stories. And I said, you know what? It's more important for us to know our history and know our story. We had I got a degree and I'm studying, all of that. You need to know you. If you don't know you find out other things could cause problems. That's why they have like atomic bombs and things like that. Because you didn't have basic lessons in humanity. There's a song called Rich Spirit by Kendrick Lamar. And I was thinking to myself, it's more important to have this rich spirit, especially from what we're up against, in interest of time, right? Some of the things going on. Scientists want to use people as antennas to power 6G. The future of 6G telecommunications could come from visible light communication. They call it VLC, right? Visible light communication. Researchers at the University of Massachusetts Amherst believe using humans as part of the antenna system offers the most efficient way to harvest waste energy. This is Popular Mechanics. This is a reputable scientific source. This isn't some fringe conspiracy theory website. This is Popular Mechanics. Like there's Nature, there's National Geographic. These are gold standards. And by the time we found out about it, they've been working on it for a long time. Now, when the black people coming in front of y'all saying that our hair and our locks were antennas and the 9 ether, they say, oh, this brother just talking all this nonsense. Somebody was in the back like, sound like something I could work with in all my devilishment. So I just want you to know what the plan is. The plan is if you don't want to use your energy, I'll use it. You don't want to realize your power. You don't want to realize that you're a spiritual electronic being with synapses and neurons and all that. You don't want to realize, you don't want to see it? Fine, don't see it. We'd rather you be unconscious. Just be a battery. But we're going to get something out of you. We're going to figure out a way. Because people say, well, what they going to do is when the computers start doing all the work, what they going to do with the people? They figured it out. They working it out. I remember in the Matrix, they had people just plugged up and just sitting in the little ambionic sacks. And now they got the virtual reality, right? You just sit there. You just tune in and log in and plug in, right? So I just want you to know, this Chat GPT, a lot of people aren't really in tune with the artificial intelligence situation because the notion of what makes a person human, right? Some of y'all saw these movies like with Will Smith and the robots and all that, right? There's always this question about what makes someone human. If I can think as a robot, if I can reason, right? What makes someone actually, what animates the physical body, right? That question of spirituality. If you're not a believer in anything, if you've ever been to a funeral and you touch that body, there's a separation between that which you knew and the mass that's before you. Just touch the body. And you'll say, wow, something is not in there that was in there. Right? And you could do it right after they pass. If you ever stood over somebody in their last moments, the blood is still there. The air is still there. So it's not a biological situation. We talk about something deeper, something left in a moment, right? So now we're dealing with a level of technology that can imitate the human experience to a point where it's concerning. Let me play this for you.
Guru recently reacted to a fake Kendrick Lamar song made by AI technology. I'm Asia Sky for Hip Hop DX, and check this out. Young Guru has raised concerns over artificial intelligence technology after a fake Kendrick Lamar song surfaced online. The legendary engineer shared a video on Instagram on Saturday, February 25th that showed a man creating a song from scratch using a Kendrick Lamar voice filter. The man briefly displayed how the filter changed his voice to sound exactly like K-Dot and proceeded to record an actual song that sounded like something the rapper would make.
This is my voice without the Kendrick Lamar AI voice filter, and
this is my voice with the Kendrick Lamar voice filter. Let it run, GC, let it run. Wish I could go back to the beginning. Are they gonna go and fake a Kendrick? I don't know. They could never capture all my lessons. My objective simply haven't. In case you let get the message, let him pray. Let him pray. Just let him pray. Let him pray.
According to Goo, AI technology poses a whole host of problems, especially if it gets into the wrong hands. In his caption, he urged the powers that be to act fast and implement laws that would protect people from the possible dangers of such technology. In the post, he said, "This has dominated my Howard group chat for a couple days. Okay, I'm at the point where I can voice my concerns with our current state of AI. I have followed as many versions of what AI could do for some years now. I remember being at MIT and students showing me a project where they were actively feeding a computer all the jazz records that ever existed so that AI could analyze and create music in any style of any musician. I didn't think that we would get here this fast with the voice. Of course, my mind goes to the ethical and legal aspects of what can be done with programs like Tacotron 2. You add that to the power of ChatGPT, and you realize we are in a very groundbreaking but dangerous moment. It's not the tech, it's the evil that men can do with the tech." Guru then went on to explain that currently people can't copyright a voice, which creates a dilemma with voice-altering technology, as anyone can sound like someone else and effectively put words in their mouth. He said there are legal aspects because at this present moment you can't copyright a voice. Midler versus Ford Motor Co. You can copyright a song or a speech, but not the voice itself. You can literally create a song or an album in the voice of your favorite musician. And this is just music. The ability to create a Manchurian candidate scares me. Think about that in every industry. There are still states that don't even have a law against revenge porn. I'm sorry to go there, but imagine the repercussion on our kids when...
Stop it there. The line between reality and technology is about to be blurred at such an exponential rate that people won't know if they're coming or going. The time before multiple people lose their lives as a result of this, can you imagine somebody saying, "Hey, listen, I got somebody tied up in a basement," right? And you hear, "Send $5,000 right now," right? People are going to be doing ransoms and revenge, and there's going to be national conflicts where people try to imitate world leaders, and we are in trouble if we're trusting technology. If we're locked into algorithms for our reality and our spiritual sustenance. But like Dr. Santi said, if somebody's around you, there's something ain't right, you can feel it. When you see birds flying, the bird don't look back and say, "I'm about to make a right." There's something already there, right? We feeling this. In martial arts, that's my blindfold, right? We got to get back to tapping in to what they haven't been able to hack and infiltrate. Because as long as you leaning forward into this technology, you in for it. Can you imagine somebody saying, "Oh, I heard Dr. Santi yesterday, he said this." You got to know people. You got to say, "That ain't Dr. Santi. He would never say that." But 2-3 weeks from now, there might be a speech about all of us. They say, "Oh, this happened at the Institute." No, it didn't. But if you're not in tune spiritually, if you're not connecting with energies, and you're looking for, because before it was just evidence. This would convict people in a court of law just 5 years ago, right? I heard their voice. OJ trial, Mark Furman, you ever say the N-word? He said, nope. They said, "Oh, right." Johnny Cochran, yeah, he said it a few times. That blew the whole case wide open. How are we going to be able to go into a court of law now and play anybody's voice? They got deep fakes with the face as well. So they're going to say, "Look, that's him." They're going to say, "That's not me." You're going to have evil people getting off. They're going to say, "No, that's somebody must have hacked my account." Like they say now with Twitter when they say something crazy, they say, "Somebody hacked me." They're going to say, "That's not me. That's a deep fake." And until you can prove otherwise, I'm going to say that I was somewhere else. Because look, I got a video saying I was home. That's my face. That's me on the couch. Right? So we got to get to a point where we're going off something else, because people got so locked into trust the science and the facts, and I believe it when I see it. And your eyes are going to deceive you in the very near future. And if you're going by that, you're going to be one of them people that say, "Well, I heard it." And you got to, the elder people say all the time, that don't mean nothing. You know, young people say, "Well, the news said," right? The president said, Bull Connor said, George Wallace said. Luckily, those people who said, I don't care what they say. You ain't going down there. I don't believe it. Don't want to do that. So I said, we are at war, right? This was part of CRT debate. Somebody says creating racial tension. 400 years, enslavement, convict leasing, lynching, segregation, right? Redlining, biological warfare, forced sterilization, and they're going to say they're trying to teach critical race theory. That's why I say got to begin in the beginning. Because you got people who have no sense of chronology. So the whole Dogon thing, I showed you a picture of that, right? So as a people, our most cherished and valuable achievements are the achievements of spirit. With an Afrocentric spirit, all things can be made to happen. It is the source of genuine revolutionary commitment. This is it, right? We just talked about this. Just have the right spirit. Have the right spirit. And people say, they try to be funny and say, what's the right spirit? You know, children do that too. We say, you know what you're supposed to be doing. You know, try to get slick on you. Well, you didn't say I couldn't do it. All right, well, you go in your room and you think about it and you figure it out there. Because I think right and wrong is already in you. Yeah, I think you know. That's why you was tiptoeing when you... You know, when you're in loss prevention, they teach people to look for rubbernecking. Like in traffic term. They teach people to look for shoppers that look around. Because when you're shopping, you don't need to look around. You just need to look at the merchandise. But when you're in security, they say look for people that's looking at other things besides the merchandise because people know what they're doing. They know. They act like they don't know. Oh, I didn't even know. I know it's in my pockets. Well, you looked around 3 times before you put it in there. You know. Let me keep this going. Okay. So Africanity versus Afrocentricity, I alluded to this earlier. We got a lot of people wear, you know, all the dashikis in the world to be the nastiest people you ever met in your life. And that's part of the reason why I was slow to change my name. So I was looking at the examples of some of these people. I go to NCBS, and I'll be like, this is a show. I work in the theater. I'm in the Screen Actors Guild. I know when somebody's performing. You know, they be like, and blah, 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 and hotep, and scene, right? Let me go to the bar and cheat on my wife and curse everybody out and try to hustle people for money. I said, wait a minute, brother. You talking about hotep and my art and all the balance? I said, man, come on, man. You know, that's just what I do. You know, it's part of the hustle, brother. And there was too many people, you know, misrepresenting. It's like social Darwinism. They'll take somebody's theory and they'll say, this will be my way to get a PhD because I didn't get accepted into the white programs. And that's not what Dr. Asante was doing. We don't want you. Go ahead and keep trying to be white. Like Sister Soldier saying, keep trying to be in their groups. But a lot of people try to look at us as a default when they don't make it into, you know, I don't know whatever they was trying to be in. But whatever they get rejected from the white group, they try to come to our group. And I say, that's not the goal. Or they watch us get a lot of momentum in the mainstream. And they say, we're going to latch our movement onto that movement. Now we're going to wear red, black, and green to push our thing. But there's a difference between these aesthetic trappings and actually people being Afrocentrically located. And that's why I put books. I wasn't going to put like some people that were genuine. No. I don't want to even confuse it. There's knowledge and a victorious consciousness and an Afrocentric spirit. And there's work related to that because it takes time and effort and energy, right? You have to be committed to read and digest material and engage in programs and with institutions like this and with people and create a sense of community, right? You have to do some work. The other way, you just got to get dressed up. And there's too many people playing dress up. Too many dress up politicians, too many dress up preachers, too many dress up professors, too many people dressing like, you know, they'll wear the jacket with the tweed, you know, and the suede elbows, and they'll say, I'm a professor. They say, you're illiterate. That jacket, this ain't Superman. Okay. But there's people who look at that Afrocentricity, you know, like it's something they could take off a hanger, you know, and just wear for the day. And they'll say, we're having cultural days. You know, a lot of my churches have, you know, cultural days on Black History Month. They'll have like, you know, we're all going to dress up in our African stuff. And I say, that's a good idea. That's a good start. Right? But could we also have an African conversation? They say, hold off on that. We're just going to get dressed up this weekend. You know what I'm saying? But luckily, I have Pastor Alexander Houston, who actually said, I want you to do, you know, a presentation for the people. We need to start educating the people about who we are, wherever we can get them together. And a lot of those people might not be located at all, but luckily when you got leadership that says, no, y'all going to learn one way or another. You know, so if you're going to be here, you're going to be here learning. So I think that's important. A catechism, if you're not familiar, a catechism is a summary of principles, including questions and answers used for introductory or verification purposes. I'm in some fraternities, and they would have catechisms. They'd ask you questions, and if you don't answer the question right, they know you're not really in the group. You know, that's why they have rituals and initiations and all that kind of stuff, right? Somebody say, you ever been to Kemet? They say, yeah, I've been there. They say, oh, where'd you stay? That's a catechism. They say, oh, Days Inn. No, I think he's in Camden, not Kemet, but I use, right? So, and I say that because we're entering a space where that which was concealed, that which was sacred, that which was internal, is being appropriated at such an exponential rate. Other people got the answers too now. Now they got the outfits and the answers. Now what we going to go by? They're going to be dressed just like you. They're going to be doing the same chants. And they Harambe, Hotep. They're going to be speaking the Chican. You're going to be, well, I know. Yeah. Yeah, now what? If we're not using the spirit, right? Because people dress like police officers and pull people over every day. You know, people say something wasn't right. You got to go back into that intuition. You got to go back into that spirit. That's why they say communicate with the ancestors. The ancestors ain't concerned with what the person got on. When people say, I thought something wasn't right before it happened. You hear that all the time. Something was telling me, well, you should have listened. Something was telling me don't go. I've been in places where something told me to leave. I had just paid, and guess what? I left. I'm not gonna stand there and be like, well, I paid my money, so if I gotta get shot, then I'm gonna have to get. No. If something feels like something about to pop off in here and it ain't right, and everybody look like they're having the time of their life, but something's telling me run, I'm gonna slide up out of here and say, you got that 20. And I can't tell you how many times we used to work on the radio and be in the clubs 3-4 nights a week. There were so many times we would leave, and when we're getting in our cars, people come running out the club. You just start moving different. It starts sounding different, you know? Like what was just a smooth flowing dance, little skirmishes, it's getting a little tense now. Some of y'all have that like at Thanksgiving, after the drinks kick in. You see, I think it's time to go, It was good to see my cousins and all them, but it's about 10 o'clock now. We going to start hugging people and, go get the coats, right? But what do you do when appropriation catches up with the catechism? When they start knowing all the codes and the ways that's Madonna, Kim Kardashian, and that's a group called One Direction, right? That's what one of the boy bands. They got a video called about stealing my girl with the Maasai. They jumping up and down, with the Maasai warriors in the video. And many of us ain't never even did that. So now you go to some of these places, and they say, we don't know y'all, but we know all these good folks that came from Universal Music Group. And you say, oh, man, we're in trouble now. Because when you got people providing for people that don't want to have their best interests as a priority, it's a very delicate situation, and it's hard to convince people otherwise. Hard to convince people when somebody's giving them sustenance that they don't really care about them in the long term. This neo-colonialism where it's like, oh, they built roads. They built roads so they could take the natural resources out. There's people who haven't got that one yet. I talk to people every day that say, oh, they built highways, they built airports. You think they did that for you? To go on Airbnb trips and all? You really think they building airports for you? They making a deal for copper and cobalt and coltan, and they're going to build a highway and an airstrip and a naval yard and an airport, and you think that that's so that you can enjoy it. You don't know history. I'm building an airport so I can come and get it. Then you can pull up at Target. They got the little pickup, spots. That's all that is. Black Gods, White Bodies. This is an article about Westerners' initiation into voodoo in Benin. 'Cause they over there learning everything. It's a tourism event. I mean, what you going to go by now? Because back in the day, they say, they see a dashiki, they say, hey, brother. Hey, sister. Like that afro, sister. Hey, blood. Hey, brother, right? You deal with a brother, because only a brother would have on that kind of jet. Oh, yeah, I see. Comrade. I see that button. You must be a serviceman. Thank you. Yeah, hoorah, right? It's all these ways to identify who's who. People would see people's spirit. They say, what church you go to? They would say that. I know you got it, I could tell by the way that you talk to your elders. You're so deferential. You're so polite, right? They would ask you, who's your pastor? You got to be in some church because, the world's not giving you that kind of information. But now you got people that are so performative with their deception. They've mastered understanding what they really are and how to mask it. Let's get into that. I only got a few more minutes. Forgotten moments to reclaim Africa's stolen art. So this appropriation of aesthetics, right? There's a long, sordid history of people imitating other people, literally taking their faces, their masks and everything. This is Rachel Dolezal, y'all. Remember, she's pretending to be black. Oh, she's transracial. Remember, she's the white woman that was saying that she was black. And I put these pictures up purposefully because, you know, she's commodifying it. She's writing books and all that, making money. They always take leadership roles. A lot of these people who are infiltrators, they get up close to the front. So when you got this spiritual discernment, you got to be careful of people that want to get up all the time. Be careful of people who want to get up on the mic all the time. Like back in the South, they wouldn't let everybody get in the pulpit. They had another mic down there for everybody else. Make the announcements. Sister Smith will make the announcements. She come walking up. They say, no, the deacon, that's going to, right? Because there's spaces that we don't want everybody up in. Because people are tuned into this space a different way. So you got to be careful when people always want to get those leadership roles and get on the mic, and then it turns out that they not for you. She got an African name now. I don't know. Oh, that's her African name. Some of y'all might be confused. Formerly Rachel Dolezal, y'all. That's why when they're saying, why did I get my African name? I say, Tupac said, don't just get African name, get African brain. Who let her in, the article said. She's either sick or a fraud. White race faker Rachel Dolezal causes outrage as she lectures black South Africans about her struggle with being trans black. She international, traveling to the continent, talking about how hard she got it. It's hard out here being a new black woman. Oh, man, this is a fashion show. This is from a fashion show. Designer Watambi presents African-themed show, but misses key element, black models. They had locks and wigs and traditional textiles, layered necklaces, and white models only, and it sparked some criticism. Because this is stuff that we was using as our markers. You know, like signposts, guideposts, right? Underground Railroad, right? The lantern. We have things that could tell us where to go. I'm telling you, you don't need new ways. I'm advising you. That's why we talk about Afrocentric futurism. You need to go back to the old ways. I always tell a story. I'd bring a girl over. My grandmother would not even turn around, and she would say to me when the girl left the room, that ain't the one, baby. I said, you didn't even look at her. She said, exactly. I didn't waste my time, and you shouldn't either. And I get all huffy, and 3 weeks later, I got to, you was right. But she was going by something different. She wasn't going by how high she pitched her voice. She said, hello, Miss So-and-so. No, we ain't doing none of that. I don't need to look at you, because some people say, well, if your skirt is this. No. You can have a turtleneck, onesie on, and you can still be loose. That ain't going to do it. But if you go by the Spirit, you put on your church clothes today. You talking like you don't out in the street because you in my house. But I see you. I know this ain't you. It's a performance. And I'm saying we got to go back to that, because in an age where we was using so many other things, I'm letting you know other people are using them too. So the purpose and power of initiation, right? So this is today. This is what's happening out here. This is Kyle Todd. He's a spiritual healer. He's a Sangoma. Healers are known in his native South Africa. He's 12 years old, one of the youngest whites to be initiated into the practice of traditional medicine, or a profession traditionally dominated by black people. And this is why when Dr. Molefe Kete Asante and Dr. Nadev wrote the book about being human being, we've reached a point where the race paradigm is completely ineffective and useless. There were people saying blue lives matter and black lives matter. Then they got the 5 cops that were wearing blue, that were black, that murdered the black man, and they all were silent. Both groups got silent. The blue lives matter people couldn't say nothing because the cops are black. The black lives matter couldn't say nothing because the cops are... They say when you want to test the theory, you take it to its logical extreme. You test it. How your theory hold up when the cops is black and the victim's black? We don't protest. We all just shut up and go and wait till the variables are... No, then that ain't no good theory then. It's not functional in a time of crisis. I need the on-time spirituality. I need something that in any situation I can call on it. I could draw on it. I could rationalize situations. I could see beyond my circumstance. I need something like that. I don't need something where I got to act like I don't see it because it doesn't fit my narrative. Oh, the cops was black? Oh, put the signs back, Shaquita. Blue lives matter. What? Oh, wait. The blue lives is black lives? Oh, how we do that? That's like a double negative. Yeah. Cancel each other out. Like, stay in here, Billy Bob. We're going to wait till the next one. Right? Bunch of frauds. Your theory, you can't even actualize your own theory. You acting like you're so passionate about something. You said the blue lives. You had buttons, you had banners, you had parades. You was out in the street. You were supporting governors that said you could run over protesters. You was on that team, gang. And in a second, when the cop is black, I don't see these people. Do y'all see them? I do not see any of them. I don't see either side that's been outside for the past 2 years arguing, making all the noise, writing all the books. I don't see either of them out. But they want to criticize somebody that can have a theory that can actually relate to the situation and say, no, how about if it's evil, we just call it evil? How about we recognize that people in all shades and sizes and shapes and colors could be evil? That way we don't got to defend the democratic sexual assaulter. Well, let me stop. I told you I'm going to finish this up strong. Okay, let's just finish this up. Pragmatic purpose and spiritual principles, aesthetics and dogma, right? The difference, right? These are the Ndinkra symbols, if you're not familiar. We talk about Ubuntu, Muntu, Kintu. I had a quick video I wanted to show you. Let me see. I do have the video. So Kendrick Lamar's song, he says he's a peacemaker, but he's not naive, brother, right? So I think it's important to recognize what we're up against. And if you've never seen this, Gil Noble, right? And this is
as far back as the 1920s. As far back as the 1920s, when he began as...
I can tell you what happens. So it's basically the video of Darthard Perry. Darthard Perry, I got to talk slow now because I don't want to say the wrong thing because I did some research and I don't want to share too much. Darthard Perry is the COINTELPRO FBI asset who talked with Gil Noble about many things, including the Watts Writers Workshop. And then he says that place burned down. And in the video you can watch on YouTube, Darthard Perry says, yeah, we did the burning. We did the arson, the FBI. He said, how do you know? He said, I was there. He said, what did you use? He talked about a lighter flare and gasoline. He said, why didn't you use something more sophisticated? He said, no, you never do that. You don't want it to look like it was us. So you have a man who is responsible for destroying black organizations and burning down black institutions. This man didn't die until 2022. So all this tough talk people are doing about they such goons and gangsters and that, we the laughing stock of the planet. When Marcus Garvey said, until we can push the button, in Africa, when they lynch a black person in America, you got people who have done so much evil and devilment and destruction to our community, and we just let them ride. And there's a thin line between being forgiven and being humane and just looking stupid on a world stage. That man, I'll say this. You should look up his obituary, which is available online, because it will show you who he was married to and had children with, who is still alive, who works in school districts, and who actually ran for political office. These people are in front of our children now with locks and wearing all the garb and stuff. These FBI assets who burned down buildings, infiltrated organizations, and helped to get people neutralized. We don't have any watchdog group to locate these people. We'll find everybody else. Let a white person say the N-word. We'll find them and get them fired in 2 hours. Find the person that got these people killed. Find the person that supported the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission when they was, writing down people's license plates and write down, get these people. The same way people do for the Holocaust people, right? They say they was in a Nazi camp. You're 90 years old. They say, oh, I'm in a wheelchair. We got a ramp. Roll you into jail. Right? I'm just talking about strategy now. I'm talking about justice. Because without justice, you can't have that level of spirituality. This is William O'Neill right in front of Fred Hampton, right? Always taking these positions. Always want to get close. But they'll dress just like you, look just like you. Got to watch your homies and police, brother. So there's always levels. It's need-to-know basis. Because people want to think that everything in Kemet was socialist. And it's like, no, we had people that didn't need to know everything then, too. When you go through the pyramids, right, there's certain areas just for certain people. They say this area is only for this, this leader and his family. It's not the public. The whole public was not running up through the place because they understood, like everybody else understands, everybody ain't going everywhere. And in order to have a functional society, everybody don't need to know everything. We got to America, had the clean slate, and now we want to envision they keeping that a secret from us. We had something called the mystery system. We used to be the best secret keepers on the planet. And that's when we were at our best. So next time somebody tries to tell you that everything you know they should know, I say, I don't know if that's African, brother. African is show you got some character. They don't teach you martial arts and the death touch on the first day. You got to get like 20 belts before we show you this other stuff. We ain't going to show you how to manipulate energy and stop people's heart by we're not doing none of that. You didn't show yourself worthy of any of this. In a relationship now with immediate gratification, people feel as though there's no spiritual requirement. They could be nasty and funky and evil, and they should just get everything. You should open up your institute to them. You should support them. They should live in your houses. I'm talking back to the parents again. Don't get caught. This is the main point. Don't get caught believing that outward displays of spiritual groundings are anything other than the otherwise obvious contradictory analysis of the spirit through a focus on the earthly, worldly, and the tangible. How are we having a spiritual conversation looking and talking about and focusing on that which is worldly? The spirit ain't a dashiki or a kufi or a cross. I thought we was talking about spirituality. You're talking about the spirit. But people get so locked into what they see, they'll have 100 years of debates and wars and murder and conflict to the point they won't even try to work together on common issues. Police will kill us all. And I talk to people, I ain't going to that meeting. I heard it's at the mosque. I bet if they chase you down that street, you'll run up in that mosque. You saw them non-believers up in Joel Osteen Church. White man, Christian church. They was up in there. Well, they were trying to get in. He locked the doors. He actually did. Joel didn't let him in the first time with the flood and everything. But I'm saying they put it aside, like Malcolm said. We got to put that aside. Act like you in an elevator that just, stopped. People act like they don't know each other, but then the elevator stopped. They become best friends. Stand on my shoulders, and I'm going to lift you up through the thing. Oh, Maleficent, that's your name? Okay, good to meet you. A minute ago, we was looking straight. White women clutching their purses. Let that elevator break down. They'll figure out a way to talk to you. They'll figure out a way to get past their racism. Everybody, they have the capability, right, in an instant to work it out. And we do it when the Eagles is playing. Coming to the arena, we don't look for who's black. We don't look for who's white. We look for who's wearing green. That's it. That's all we care about. They'll hug you if you're homeless, and nobody cares no more. So I know in terms of the human spirit, we're able to divorce ourselves from this programming which separates and causes us to be conquered through division and causes us to be destroyed of itself. I know in an instant, we can make a decision to not exist this way by our understanding of what's possible. So in closing, quick shift. Questions we must answer in a spiritual war. There's questions about health, questions about our birthright, right? Because this whole notion of black people being all over the planet. Ranoka Rashidi and so many others have talked about this all the time. But I meet people every day who have a different notion of history because they're trying to balance all the lies they were told in traditional education with some of the new information they received. And it's not really flowing the right way because it's hard to create a timeline. That's why that timeline Tony Browder put together is so important. We were everywhere on the planet. Everywhere on the planet, right? Early Europe, early Asia, early America. All black. And it's a very powerful spiritual question because otherwise you have people talking about a different narrative. Health is wealth. Wellness as a spiritual weapon. This is the shortest part because I'm going to close with this because I don't want y'all to get mad at me. Because y'all about to go to lunch or something after this. And
The industry-wide secret butchers don't want you to know about. Major suppliers have been caught using a special product known as meat glue to stick together scraps of meat to sell as prime cuts. But while this product has been banned overseas, there's no law prohibiting its use here. Here's Rodney Lowe's with this special investigation.
Called meat glue. That's what right there.
It's the meat industry's dirty secret, a way of turning the scraps too small to sell as a premium steak back into a juicy, plump eye fillet to sell for a premium price.
I'm going to take it easy on y'all today. If you Google plastic rice, plastic lettuce, right? They're literally using plastic and feeding it to people, mixing some chemicals, some ingredients with some plastics, nanoparticles. Before, all we had to worry about was the actual food. Remember back in the day, they said, don't eat that swine, brother. They were talking about the actual food. Now, it's the glue and the...
A juicy, sizzling steak made by computer. While obtaining regular meat is a process that's been taking place for millennia, cow, butcher, beef, Redefined Meat, a meat alternative startup out of Israel, makes their product using a highly technical process. The mix of soy and pea protein, chickpeas, beetroot, nutritional yeast, and coconut fat is formed into steak-like shapes using a 3D printer.
It's actually probably healthier from the ingredients they was given, but the point is, 3D printed food, yeah. So we getting plastic food, nanoparticle food, glued food, and 3D printed food. And that's the food. You know, a lot of stuff ain't even considered food. You know, they said they had to say Kraft slices because they couldn't even call it cheese. Because the cheese industry was like, that ain't cheese. Y'all better figure it out. And they was like, Kraft singles. And you can look at it now. That's what it says, right? It says Kraft singles. Like they dating. Kraft singles. No. But when you're dealing with people who don't have a spiritual compass and food is only looked at as a commodity, you can't be surprised they're going to feed you anything. They just want to get your money. That's it. You ever see a diagram of how much sugar is in each of those energy drinks and stuff? You know how wicked you got to be to call something an energy drink and half of it be sugar, which we know crashes people and takes their energy? You know how slick you got to be to say, it's going to give you energy. That's what the drug dealers used to say. It's going to make you feel good. Yeah, for 10 minutes. It's going to ruin my life. So these are some of the things that they look out for. Alestra, this red number 40. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but it's one of the whitening agents in the cereal. This is banned in over 100 countries. This one here, ractopamine, brominate, the vegetable oils and sodas and everything else, and the BHAs, the BHT for the packing material to keep it fresh so it can stay on the shelf for 3-4 months. And they say, yeah, for McDonald's 20 years, right, look the same. But they say, you know, for every meal you have, not to go all Dr. Layla Africa on you, or Dr. Sebi, for every meal you have, you're supposed to have a bowel movement. When I heard that, I said, oh, my math ain't mathing. I was eating like 4 times a day. I'd go some days. I said, something ain't right. That's why they say no matter, you know, how much you work out, most times people have, you have a little stomach there. And it's not because you're not in shape sometimes. It's because of the waste. And that's what ends up, starting in the colon, the diseases that leak into the lungs or the brain or the other parts of the body causing cancer, right? You got to flush your body out, got to clean your body out, right? But it's very hard to clean your body out when you're eating things that are meant to stay there. Preservatives are meant to hold on and latch onto the walls and chill, right? It's not like grains and fiber that's like just, moving through. And I had to give you one more. When the stomach pushes, it does like that, right? And it pushes it through. So they say if you have fiber that swells up, it's easy, right? And not only does it easy to push through, it pushes the other stuff out. You got ramen noodles and all this stuff on there and Mad Dog 2020, right? It's laying on the bottom. The stomach got to go all the way down just to push it once and go all the way down again just to push it one more time. And then people say, I wonder why I get so tired right after I eat all the time. Because your body's in a full-scale workout. And it's mad at you. What? Okay. So ma'at, right? So we need to talk about restoring this balance in closing. Because it's about the balance. And people want the symbols, right? So we're trying to keep the balance. Kendrick Lamar talked about this as well. The balance, like we talked about in the beginning, is community. There's people that got all these degrees but don't know their neighbors. I've seen them. They got all these achievements. But if they walk out their house and wave to the people next door, the people next door will be like, that's a first. I don't know you. And it's not even good for your own safety. Because then something happens, they want to have community. Right? So it's like the elevator scenario. Keep the balance. Kindness. They say very few things bring people out of states of depression and pessimism and doing good things for other people. So next time you feeling down and feeling funky and feeling in a rut, try it. Try calling somebody and say, I was just thinking about you, just wanted to hear your voice. Think about, oh, that's so nice. Now you both feel better, right? Balance. I did the health thing. I ain't going to, I did enough on y'all today with the health thing. But the balance. And family. I always say, There is so many things that I can do in my own family. It will take me at least 10 years before I worry about anybody else and what they're doing. This is the real work. I know people that watch every video in the world. They watch every lecture, but they won't call their brother or sister. Father done transition, still won't forgive their father. Children acting like that's what I said, like children do. People, we complain about our children like that's not what children do. And a lot of times we don't remember that we're the adults. So if you complain about your child, no matter what age they are, you have to remember what relationship that is. You're the adult and they're the child, even if y'all both grown. So if somebody gonna call somebody and rectify a situation or model the type of leadership that doesn't have y'all all looking crazy at the funerals, screaming and yelling and crying and coming to the city for the first time in 20 years. Let me go ahead and finish this up. Okay, balance. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Give him one more applause. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank y'all. Thank y'all.
This is wonderful. Very, very, very good. All right. So, do we have any questions? We have. All right. There's one right here.
All
yes,
right.
Sir.
Great lecture, Brother
Thank you,
Dr. John. Can we actually teach spirituality or spiritual relevance?
I think so. I think that's why it's so important to redefine it, right? Like this notion of this golden rule, like Dr. Santi was talking about, this being intentional, and this Dogon notion of being communal, right? In one of these clips in the Dogon documentary, the two younger people had a dispute about land and border territory. They immediately said the elders, right? Like in the church, they say, don't lean on your own understanding. Don't try to figure it out. It's not for you to do it. It's for somebody who knows better. They said they had a dispute. They young, they hot-headed, they fiery, right? They angry, and they impulsive. So they immediately relinquished the decision-making process to people who are not directly involved, right? And who had experience on the planet and had a type of temperament that could resolve a conflict. Like, to me, that's the right spirit, because you can't have the spirit of ego. You can't have the spirit of pride. You can't have the spirit of violence and vengeance if you're going to be able to submit to a process like that in terms of communal structure. So to me, you can structure your community in such a way that people are in tune with their spirit. When you talk about grounding and people walking on with the bare feet, they said the response is immediate. When they have the EEGs on the people, they said it doesn't take long for people's whole body chemistry to change when their bare feet touch the ground, right? So if you have people deferring to the elders, in communication with nature. People talk about that. They say, oh, what is Vodun? What is it? They talk about nature. When they talk about the essence of it, we talk about nature. Balance with nature. Same thing with my, just in harmony. Justice, reciprocity. What you want to do to other people, have it done to you. These are basic tenets that are what people say the trappings of spirituality is predicated upon. So I think we could teach people, treat people like you want to be treated. We see young people being mean to little animals and bugs when they're younger, right? An elder will come and say, now how would you like somebody pour soda all over your house? That's where these ants live. You shooting slingshots at these birds. They didn't do nothing to you, right? There's finding ways to use lessons in nature to have them understand empathy, so they get in tune with how they feel in a way they can understand how it would make other people feel or other entities feel in nature. And I think to me that's a rich spirit, right? Somebody who cares. And we could do that for our young people. But we're so busy chastising them that I don't think we realize that that's what they came from. Like if you're in a house where you're always getting told and talked down to, the last way to touch and connect with that person is the way we usually opt for. We jail them, we push them on the news, we, look at them run through the store grabbing chips. Immediately in other communities, even in the church, they say lay hands on that person. Get the elders around them. I've seen people yelling and cursing and crying and people hugged them because they understood where it was coming from. I know you don't hate me. You cursing everybody out because you're in pain and you don't know how to cry for help. You don't know all the rituals and all the ways that you're not a prayer warrior, right? You don't know how to talk like we talk. So you come in and scrunch your face up. And that's your way of saying you need some spiritual guidance and support. A teenager, I'll stare at you nasty. Or I act like I'm not interested when you talk. That's their language. And spirituality can cut through traditional forms of language and let you identify with pain and resentment and a need to connect with people. That's why some people aren't fazed by all these other things. They can just walk up to somebody and say, we're glad you're here, baby. And they'll do that every Sunday for a whole year till the person walks down the aisle crying. They do it in prisons. You want me to pray with you? F you, get out my face. Okay, see you tomorrow. This is a Malcolm movie, same thing, right? They'll keep trying because they understand that at the base of a human being, people want to be loved, people want to be accepted, people want to be in community, people do not want conflict. People don't want to look over their shoulder or to have sleepless nights when they go to bed and feel unsafe. People don't want to be filled with regret when they close their eyes at night or when they're by themselves and fear being alone because of what they have to face. That's not what people really are naturally, and I think that's why we need to focus on what the spirit is, because to me, that's the real person.
Okay, there's one back in the back.
Firstly, Dr. Ade, thank you very much for that very enlightening presentation. My question is, how do we compare and contrast compassion, empathy, and sympathy? And is that something we should even be concerned about, comparing and contrasting them?
I think like the aggression we see in many of our communities, it's the placement of these attributes that's the cause for the greatest concern. Because people do what they want to do. They find the energy, they find the time, they find the money. I always joke about, brothers when they were young, they say, I couldn't make it. And I say, you never said that when it came to going to see a young lady you're interested in, right? I say it'd be a hurricane. They'd be spinning to the girl. They find a way, right? If you want to do it, you figure it out, right? You think these people aren't fighters? Look at our young people. It's not that they're not fighters. It's who they fighting. They fighting each other. The capacity is there. I just showed you Darthard Perry lived a happy life till 2022. We as compassionate as they come. Emancipation Proclamation, we didn't have any more slave revolts. There was no revenge in the process. 4 million people didn't seek revenge. So we the most compassionate, empathetic. We just got to extend it to ourselves the way we've done to our oppressors. So I think it's just a redirecting because we have unparalleled capacity for empathy and love and compassion as a people. But when there's not this self-knowledge or in commune with your own spirit, then it's misdirected. And you start loving all the people that hate you and hating all the people that are there to support you or look and think and act like you or more aligned spiritually than you. So I think it's just a matter of diversifying and redirecting. But it's definitely some qualities we can use.
You have 2 questions online. Anthony Dandris asks, is it fair to say that the best ways to develop an authentic spiritual community in the midst of all of this performativity that you have identified is to participate in community, kindness, and family?
My good brother, Anthony Dandridge, Temple University, and also a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Shouts out to you, good brother. Because he's the one always barking at the media if you ever see on the videos. But shouts out to my good brother. He summed it up perfectly. It's about returning home. That's what we don't want to do. And a lot of times, down south, they say, don't go to that college and get stupid. People love running. They'll go somewhere new and get this new identity. And you're the same person. You didn't fix it. There's all this stuff you didn't fix. That's why people be a multimillionaire, but they come home and then you see them with Ayanna Van Zant in the Oprah video and they see their father for the first time and start crying. It's unresolved. We looking at what Joe Biden going to do and what Donald Trump, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's a whole Philadelphia right outside. Whoever's watching this, you can do things. And that's the hardest person to look at is the person in the mirror. Can you be more empathetic? Can you be more forgiving? Can you let some stuff go so you can get some stuff done? There's so much energy that's dedicated to holding on to bitterness and resentment and anger and revenge and who you don't like that you can't even have the imagination to conceptualize a new way to exist or a new world for the future generations. You're not serving our babies. They don't want your vengeance. They don't want your unforgiveness. They can't do anything with that. And sometimes people say, tell me something about Grandpa. Oh, no. Why are you going to give somebody the worst parts of somebody? They used to say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, right? And we all fall victim because, sometimes we hurt and we're impulsive. We haven't resolved it. But I think Anthony hit it on the head. Like, let's just be kind and let's specialize our focus to what's tangible and possible in the immediate sense.
All right, we have another question from Mwable Long.
Our last question.
Yes. Jan Mutu K II says, back home in Gabon, Africa, my parents always taught me the importance of harmony with Mother Nature. I grew up with it, even after spending more than 3 decades in France and Europe. He also recommended that one of the books by Dr. Asante, The History of Africa, The Quest for Eternal Harmony, would be the solution for some of this knowledge.
Definitely. The fact that we have adopted a conceptualization of humanity that is divorced from nature is arguably one of the most Eurocentric destructive notions that even Afrocentrics have fallen victim to, adopting and accepting. We'll read the books, we'll put on shirts, we'll even change our diet, but we don't view ourselves as a part of nature the way that all the traditions that we herald and exalt have done. We are not separate from nature. This stuff that we're dealing with now with the chemicals and the water and the air from Palestine, and this is a carryover from the original misconception that people can destroy nature, divorce themselves from nature, and exist somehow in harmony with it, and it won't take a toll to be a reckoning. There was an indigenous proverb that said, only when the white man has cut down the last tree and poisoned all the air and water, to paraphrase, he'll understand he can't eat money. Right? And that's what we're dealing with now. We need to get back to understanding we can grow things. The trees that are put in these major cities are all male trees. They purposely don't put the trees that can bear fruit because it hurts industry. That's why you don't see apple trees up and down Germantown Avenue and peach trees down Broad Street. This is intentional. This is because people have an allegiance to a system, an illusory matrix and a system, a commodification of consciousness and humanity, right? Want to use us as antennas, want to make us consumers. They have the ability to take these seeds right out of every fruit, plant it right in the ground, but this understanding that the answers we seek are already available to us. It's our allegiance, it's our agreement to the idea that what is illusory is real, that's destroying us more than the actual activities of our oppressors. It's our acquiescence. It's our looking at it too. When they say, look over there, we should say, no, that's for you to look at. Well, look at Putin. He ain't gonna listen to me. That's why we elected you. You go talk to him. I'm gonna go talk to my family. I'm gonna make sure people aren't in the street 2 blocks from my house because it's 20 degrees tonight. I got things, but what we do, we all sit there and watch the news, and we watch some more news. Then we watch some more news. That's why I call it negative energy wicked spirits. So I think Anthony hit it right on the head. And that's a good closing comment. We need to be nicer. We need to be more in tune with who we are and realize the reality of our mortality. I think that was Steve Jobs' speech. He says the best thing we can do is realize we're going to die. So we'll stop acting so crazy, right? We'll stop acting like we got all the time in the world. You ain't got that much time to get it right. So whatever you could do today to get it right, get yourself together and get it right, and don't worry about what anybody else is doing because they ain't going to be in the coffin with you. Thank you.
Young man brings a lot of wisdom. Thank you so much. I just want to take this time to say that for a couple of minutes, Stan Strada is here, who's a wonderful brother who I've been working with on Africa Town. Did you want to say, at some point, we need you to talk to us about Africa Town? There is a project that's going on in Philadelphia that is very powerful, and it is the creation in this city of Africa Town. And Stan and I have been working with this, with the Akana organization, for several years, and they brought me in. We are developing something that I think will be very meaningful nationally and even internationally. We've always said that they have Chinese towns, they have Korean towns, they have all kinds of communities throughout the world and in this country. I mean, I just came from Los Angeles a week and a half ago, I guess it was, and there's Koreatown, there's Vietnamese town. But in the United States of America, it's been rare to have an Africa town. And so Philadelphia has, we're not planning it, it's already planned, and we're working on it. And Stan Strada is one of the people who is very dear to that project. And I just want you guys to at least know he's here. He's a major figure in the African world. young man. Thank you. So we'll definitely have him come one time. So I want to also thank all of you for coming in our physical space. This is beautiful. Now we have an exciting speaker on the 19th. You will enjoy this speaker. Her name is Michelle Taylor. Michelle Taylor is actually outstanding. She's provocative. She is powerfully brilliant. She will be here, and you bring all your friends, anybody you can, to come out and hear Michelle. You will certainly appreciate it. So we look forward to seeing you on the 19th at 4 o'clock. And those of you who are on YouTube, you can tune in to us again next week. And once again, yes, sir, Brother Coleman.
I'm sorry, do we know her topic yet?
Her topic is going to be on Afrocentricity for all people, how Afrocentricity can help all classes and genders of African people, something like to that effect, all right? So we will put her topic, I think our topic is already on the calendar. If you look on go to the mkainstitute.com and look for the calendar. You can also see on that website our donation page. If you want to make a donation to the Institute, go to the mkainstitute.com and you will see how to give donations to the Institute. All right. We thank you so much, Dr. Ade. We call upon our ancestors far and near, the mother of our mothers and the father of our fathers, to always render mercy and bear witness for the liberation and the victory of all oppressed people forever. It is done. Ashe. All right. Thank you so much.